questions weren't enough. We had more sitting in the inbox that we couldn't get through in our first round of listener questions, so we're back for round 2.
Yes.
If you haven't heard part 1 yet, please go back and find that where we address a batch of listener questions we've received. Hearing directly from you all like this has been one of our favorite parts of doing this show. Sarah and I read through all of your emails and messages, and we keep saying the same thing to each other. We've been there years ago in our own operating roles, challenged by the same things. So it's great that you're sharing questions because this is relevant for many of us. Part of what we love about building this community is that we get to talk about these things that are in common to all of us in operations, and we can all be better together. So that's exactly what we're talking about today. Hi, I'm Penny Cook. I'm a fractional COO and strategic operations consultant, helping product and consumer brands install, upgrade, and run scalable operations and operational systems that reflect the founder's unique vision and ambition.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wilson, a fractional COO and operational turnaround partner for founder-led SMB. I help businesses struggling with the complexity and challenges within their operational core. I work with founders to install repeatable, scalable processes to unlock the ability to grow with the teams and tools they already have. Let's get into this. I love it. I love that we had to spill into another episode.
The mailbag.
Right? Open that mailbag. And I just want to say, I echo Penny in that we absolutely love with the questions. We want to encourage our listeners to keep them coming. This really lets us, keep our finger on the pulse on what's happening out there within your operations roles and what challenges are you guys having. So thank you again so much. So let's just jump into this next listener question. I'm just going to take a moment and read it out. So my sales team keeps pushing my ops team towards custom builds and shortcuts to close deals faster. Doesn't say, but I think this probably would be software related. I think we're optimizing for different things and it creates real tension and sometimes disappoints our customers. How do I get ahead of this? It feels like we're talking about it for every deal. Yes, I love this question. This is very real. I mean, Penny, with your experience in software, I think you've probably seen this a lot, hey?
Been there, done that in software and also in any kind of engineered product. There are a lot of custom requests and sales, once they want to make the sale and they want to make customers happy. So it comes from a really good place where they're trying to help the company, they're trying to help their customer, they're trying to do the right thing, but they don't have that intimate knowledge of what it takes to do these things or what other customers it might affect if we're making choices to do custom builds often.
Yes. And I would say, there's a few bits of advice that I would give. And it would start off with coming at this challenge, even though it's really frustrating, and it absolutely is. When you think about how you want to approach solving it, I encourage you to think with the spirit of, okay, we recognize that everybody is in it for the customer. Ideally, everybody wants to please the customer. Yes, we're trying to make the sale, but also both sales and operations do share the goal of keeping that customer happy. So with that in spirit, let's think about a couple of different things that we could do to actually approach this in real time. So getting ahead of this really starts with building agreements between the two teams before we're in the thick of the next deal. So before we actually are negotiating with the customer, we really need to get together, right?
That's so key, Sarah, because once you're in a deal, the only thing your negotiating partner in sales is going to be thinking about is closing that deal. If you're talking about this outside of it as an issue in general, you can get them to be a little more objective about the situation rather than this single case. And you don't want to litigate a single case with them. That's not a great way to build a relationship with your internal partner.
Yes, absolutely. So it's really about in that spirit of the end goal being shared in that customer satisfaction and customer happiness. It's something to approach and sit down together and just speak about the shared goal and where perhaps recently that talked about the tension that's been happening, but it's not a blame game. It's really there's been there's been tension, acknowledge that it exists because the two different parties have a shared goal but might not be on the same page. Come at it with the spirit of really wanting to get to a shared agreement, because the sitting down with sales and coming to a shared agreement about what's possible and what's not and how you're going to handle things going forward. Sales isn't going to get on board unless sales has a hand in building the plan of how you're both collectively going to solve it.
Yep, that's so true, Sarah. And one thing that I've always told my operations teams is we are here to support the sales organization. And if we're not
Absolutely.
doing that, what are we doing as a
Mhm.
business? We need to sell the products that we're creating and supporting. And if we're not helping them sell those products, again, how are we staying in business? So when
Exactly.
sales really knows that you're there to support them, they can come to you with more of a, hey, I need support in this situation, rather than, hey, I demand you do this thing, right? Because there are definitely sales organizations that will try and strong arm you into doing something. But where you have an established relationship, they understand that you have their best interest in mind, you can come at it with joint problem solving. Maybe they're requesting a custom build because they think the customer wants something that requires something custom. The operations team tends to know the ins and outs of the intricacies of what you're building a little bit more than the sales team does. You
Yes.
can really help them reach an end that will help that customer that may not require something custom, or may allow them to step into a solution that we can deliver that allows for customization later on down the line that won't disrupt the flow of what the operations team is really trying to deliver. So there are a lot of ways to really approach this to deliver what you want for the customer. The main thing that Sarah pointed out is this is relationship based. Build a good relationship and be on the same team with your salespeople.
Absolutely. And I really recommend that you revisit this, this shared how you're going to work together and how things move forward together on a regular basis. I like to even use the draw on my PM language and use a kind of a lessons learned. And a lessons learned on a regular basis becomes all about what you learned about the last deal or the last few deals, and you do that on a regular basis. Together, you're spending time learning what worked, what didn't, and it takes the focus off who's doing what and puts the focus and keeps the focus on the process.
On
And
the process, being productive, moving forward, and adhering to a process that helps you do a great job for customers.
exactly. So one thing to take away is start a standing reoccurring conversation with your counterpart in sales leadership, make it ongoing. And this is really going to let it grow into the ongoing executive relationship that pays off beyond this deal, but for deals going forward.
Yep, having a framework like that in place, even more once a business is about to move faster, is really important, and it's going to help you jointly problem solve, and you'll get great feedback from your sales team. Also, you want to know how things are landing. You want to know what your sales team is saying and hearing from customers, so it'll benefit everyone. Our next question is about a business where a lot more is about to move at once. So, listener writes in, my brand just landed a major distribution deal and everything is about to get bigger fast. Our whole operation runs on a few talented and motivated people who know where everything lives in their heads. Oh, yes.
Mhm. Yes.
What should I actually be looking at right now to grow this organization to where we'll need to be? This is an exciting and a really scary moment for companies, and this is what you hope for when you start up, and then you reach this milestone where you hit on something and everything needs to change if you're going to keep up. So, congratulations on getting to that point, because a lot of businesses don't make it there. So, first of all, recognize that all the hard work, even if it's felt chaotic up to this point, has gotten you there, and that's an enormous accomplishment.
Well done.
Yeah, well done. And where I always start with clients when they're reaching this scaling moment, start with the customer experience continuum. What are you actually promising to your customers around availability, quality, reliability, and what systems do you have in place to deliver at whatever scale you're operating at right now as volume grows? From there, get really specific. Are we able to keep up on all of those promises? Do we have systems in place? Like, this is where your map is going to show you gaps and where you feel you have capabilities. So once you've identified where your areas of opportunities are, that's where you can dive in and really start doing some process work.
I love that mapping opportunity, Penny. The once you actually create that map, and I really recommend it be a map. It's often those pieces in between the functions where things break or get messy or what have you. And the map is like that first step to identify what those are.
Yep, for sure. And this is also the point where and I'm going to assume this is a product company because they said landing a distribution deal. So they're putting a product into the market, and a real S&OP process matters here. An S&OP process is sales and operation planning, where, like from the last question we answered, your sales and operations need to be plugged into each other. You need to understand forecasting. You need to understand availability. And you need to get information back to sales about what customers actually are going to receive from you. And you need to have information that goes to your supply chain program into what kind of raw materials are you ordering, what's your manufacturing schedule, what are you having in inventory, and how is that getting shipped out to customers. And so having a good, robust process that works for your company around all these things will really help you sleep at night as you scale, because a right-sized program around that will help you understand always where you are and allow for really good communications with all of your partners. I love helping out with those. I love when we reach those moments because, again, it goes from chaos to something that feels organized and approachable, and we can really find success in how to scale a program.
Absolutely. And the fun part about being in operations, I find this, and Penny, maybe you do too, is the opportunity to support some really amazing things. Like founders blow my mind sometimes. The creativity, the passion for what they do. And it doesn't matter if it's manufacturing paint or making donuts or whatever it is, software. It just the idea that somebody was creative enough and brave enough, and that we get to be the partners that help make that vision come to life. Absolutely incredible.
So that's so true. It's so true. And, Sarah and I are both in this business because we love helping partners do this. So happy to have these conversations with you. And again, congratulations for reaching this point in your growth. And if you want to talk further about that, and if you need any help, hit us up. We're here. We're here. We're happy to have a conversation. We're happy to jump in and help. And I would say one thing that you can do this week that will really kind of start to set your mind at ease: map your customer experience, map it end to end for what your customers actually, from the very beginning of finding out who you are through to purchase and experience of your product. Understand what that looks like, and then kind of map in where you have processes and where your gaps might be. I think that really is a concrete step that you can take this week that's going to help you move into that next phase at scale in your business.
Excellent. I love the mapping exercise, Penny. It's so key, and especially from that customer standpoint, because we often start the mapping kind of internal and then out, and the customer being on the outside. So once you've done that mapping exercise, it tells you where your gaps are, and that leads quite nicely into this next listener question. So I'm going to read it out here. I keep going back and forth on hiring a head of operations. Some weeks I'm buried in stuff that isn't strategic anymore. Other weeks, I think I'd just be hiring someone to paper over the problems I could fix myself. How do I actually know that I'm ready, and what should the role own from the first day? Great question.
Great. So many of you out there I know are struggling with this very issue.
And as I think it sounds cliche, but I'm going to say it. You're either working in your company or you're working on your company. And early on in that founder journey, for sure, absolutely, owners and founders are working on everything, getting your fingers in the pie, getting, down and dirty, as they say.
Rolling up those sleeves.
Exactly. And it's that kind of stuff is really, once that stuff moves away from your plate and onto a head of operations, that frees you up to be the strategic, brilliant founder that you are. I mean, your creativity, your willingness to take risks, all these wonderful things got you to where you've taken your business today. So anyone listening who is a founder, just if you're in that day to day, sometimes you might be forgetting that, but it is your brilliance that got you to this point. So we really recognize, though, on the other end of that is letting go of that day to day can be really scary.
Yeah.
It's who does it better, that, or what is that other adage that people say? If I want it done right, I'm going to do it myself. We
Don't do
get it.
that.
Exactly. We get it.
Yeah.
But also let go of that, please, for your own
Yeah,
sake.
yeah. There, of course, there are things that you can do, and this listener referenced in their question that am I just hiring somebody to fix problems that I can fix myself? Of course, you probably could fix them, but at what cost? Should you be fixing them, or should you be orchestrating the fact that things get fixed?
Exactly.
You could probably do every single function in your company, but should you, right? Is that going to free you up to do the kinds of things to steer the company in a direction that's going to continue to grow it? Probably not. The question is, how do you wade into extracting yourself from operations in a way that makes you feel comfortable? And this is where, maybe not a full-time hire. Sarah and we are fractional COOs, and we also do project work. And there are a lot of people like us out there. There are a lot of kind of small solutions that you can test. Look at consultants, look at fractionals, test the waters, understand kind of the kinds of things that you need done in your company, understand the kind of people that you're going to work well with. Test the waters a little bit before you hire a full-time executive, unless you're absolutely sure that you're making the right move there. And explore your options, but certainly, let go of the things that are keeping you from doing the most strategic things in your company.
Absolutely. And one thing to do this week, in the same vein of the mapping exercise we just talked about, when we think about that customer journey, is actually mapping almost your own journey, but with the lens of what are the things that happened this week that pulled me back into that operator, hands on, in the business mindset? What were those things? And write those down. And those are absolutely the things that would belong in that head of operations seat. And Penny just talked about a really great low risk way to test that out in your business without kind of making that leap for a full-time hire.
Yeah, call us. Call us. Talk to both of us.
Right.
We're happy at the very least to offer some advice, or one of us could be right at just helping you find the right solution. So Sarah, we talked about three very different scenarios today, but they all kind of come back to the same thing, right? The leaders who get ahead of problems, like the ones we talked about today, aren't the ones with fewer problems. They're the ones who built structure to navigate these scaling moments and these problems that are coming. So thank you again to everyone who sent in questions. I apologize if we didn't get to yours. We will do our best to get back to you personally, and we still have some more that we can address in the podcast later on. We love hearing from all of you. And again, Sarah and I read every single one of these, and we
Absolutely.
love hearing. So challenges like these show up in everybody's operating role, so it's great to be able to talk about them here. And there's real value in knowing that you're not the only one who's working through them. So to quickly recap, getting sales and ops rowing in the same direction instead of relitigating every single deal, mapping your customer experience continuum before a big scale up hits to identify process gaps, and knowing when it's time to bring in the right help, fractional or full time, to get out of the operator's seat will help you scale with purpose. And this is the kind of work that Sarah and I do with clients all the time. Please get in touch if there's anything we can help out with. You can send us a note, keep them coming on our website, or hit us up on LinkedIn, and we're happy to get back to you. If this episode was useful, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode, and share it with a colleague who might find it useful as well.
Because great businesses don't just happen, they operate on purpose. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Penny.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Look
everyone.
forward to hearing more from you.
See you next time.